Today we're going to focus on social networking, particularly the academic use of social networks. So, I've prepared this page which introduces the ones we want you to consider today. We think you should try at least one of them. Choose something you've not used before. First up we have WorkTribe, the university's research information management system. If you're a member of staff, you should already have a profile and be logging any research outputs you have in this system. There's Orcid, a provider of persistent identifiers for researchers. There's Twitter, a general social network that enables people to communicate with anyone around the world. However, it has lots of uses academically that we'll go through in this video. We then have Academiaedu, ResearchGate.net, and Humanities Commons. These are all specialist networks that help researchers connect with one another and showcase and share their work. Next up, there's LinkedIn. It's not necessarily associated with academic networking, but it can be very useful for researchers in certain fields, and there are some very good groups that are great for academic networking. And then finally, there's Kudos, a platform that you can use to explain your research in plain language. Let's have a look at each of these in detail. First up, there's WorkTribe. On WorkTribe you can build a profile, providing all of the details of your outputs, your qualifications, and any recognition you have. Any outputs that you put in the system can then be sent for review by the library and, once ready, made discoverable in the institutional repository. It's essential for REF that any outputs you have are made available and logged in the system, so this is essential for all University of Hull staff that are research active. You'll also notice it's essential for generating your official profile on the university homepage, which you're going to want if you're a member of staff. All of your information from WorkTribe is pulled through weekly, making your biography, teaching, outputs, and any research available on the main university website. Next up, let's look at Orcid. Orcid allows you to generate a persistent identifier that makes sure you are linked to your things. I'm lucky, I think there's only another Lee Fallon working in higher education and research, but for many of you, you may find there are lots of people sharing your name. With Orcid, you can provide your Orcid ID to publishers and other networks. Here you can see I've input it on a journal that I plan to submit an article to. This way any research that I were to publish with them would be linked back to me through my Orcid. If you're looking to publish, it's a really good idea to get started with your Orcid sooner or later. You can build your profile and then link it to any research that you publish. Next, let's look at Twitter. Famed for its short character counts that keep posts super concise. You'll tend to find that most academics that use Twitter use it for a mix of both personal and professional use. Here you can see I've got everything from sharing my latest outputs to my latest achievements, all the way down to retweets of academic things I think are interesting. You can also use the Explore tab to explore current events, see what's going on in the world, and connect with other people. For example, I've been searching for this hashtag #HumberFloods, which links to a historical event that took place in Hull. Back in 2013, there was a real surge and there was a risk of the city flooding, and you can see there's loads of people who've tweeted about this event and shared the aftermath. This could be a really good source of data for research projects. But it doesn't just have to be used as a data source. You'll see here I can use hashtags to keep up to date with research, higher education, or what's going on in general. Here I can see lots of examples of research with impact. Here is a great example of a tweet designed for public communication. This is a really important piece of research. It looks at why students don't turn on their cameras in online learning. And we can see here the authors have made this really useful image summary pulling out their key findings. This can be a really useful way to generate impact And for the audience, it gives them a really good idea of this phenomenon and why people might not be sharing their cameras. You can see here there's lots of very genuine concerns. So while Twitter might not often be associated with academic use, you can actually see here that it's a fantastic source of information and a great way to conduct and connect with other researchers. We're also increasingly finding that members of the press are getting somewhat lazy, or at least leveraging Twitter to be able to connect with researchers. Previously, if they wanted to speak to an expert, they would reach out through a university press office and get in touch with their expert that way. Now, quite often they're just happy to browse on Twitter to find an expert, DM them and see if they can come onto the show. So if you want to have that broader impact, Twitter's a great place to start. Now we can move on to look at some of those more specialist networks. ResearchGate, Academiaedu and Humanities Commons. You'll see all of these let you develop a profile, build it and share your research. And while they look very different, they generally achieve the same thing. It's a way for you to showcase your research. Now, each of them do have their own specialist functionality. So you can see here in ResearchGate.net, there's a questions function, and this is a great way in which you can ask academic research questions and get some very good responses from experts in the field. Here's a great example. Someone is asking for a good reference for generalized strain condition in composites. And you can see here, I have the option to answer, recommend, see how many reads, and gain the response. If I go down a little bit further and look at an older question, I can start to see these ones have some answers. I can both contribute or just read to benefit from what other people have already shared. There's also a very good jobs area which you can use if you're looking to further your career or looking for your next step. Similarly, Academiaedu has the ability to connect with other researchers. You'll also notice it has lists of courses and much more detailed analytics so you can see who's accessing your profile. Just be aware that Academiaedu does have a premium version, and so there's often a lot of ads really encouraging people to upgrade, which can get a little bit annoying. Both Academiaedu and ResearchGate.net are very much focused around getting you to add your research. You can see there's an Add New button here, and there's a new Add New button here. You can use this to upload a document and share it with the wider community. However, you must be very careful that you're only sharing materials you're allowed to. Many authors may accidentally share the publisher's final version, and you're likely to find that unless you've paid for open access or it's an open access journal, you're not able to share that document. So always check with the publisher to see what you can share. More importantly, however, both of these can be an excellent source to find research. You'll be able to see people not just asking questions, but sharing their research. Let's have a look at this academic's profile. You can see they've got their research all listed here, and there's a whole variety of articles that I can either download or request. If I click request, it will send these authors a note saying, hey, Lee really wants access to this, and hopefully they'll be able to share it. Humanities Commons is rather similar, but it does have the option of sharing through this core repository. This is designed for sharing open access publications. Very much on the spirit of open access, open source and open to all, so that anybody can read your work whether they're logged in or not. Now let's switch to LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a business network and is more associated with people looking to hire or looking for a job themselves. And while that is the main function of LinkedIn, it's also much more. You'll notice under My Network you've got access to a whole range of not just connections and contacts, but groups, events and pages. In my groups, I've been able to find some really useful networks, some of them focused on my profession, but others on research. This NVivo's user group, for example, is full of fascinating and helpful discussion and shared posts all to do with using that particular piece of software, and I find it can be very helpful to ask questions here if there's something I get a little bit stuck with. On here you can also develop a profile, much like the other sites. Of course, it's more focused on your educational and career history, but you can also share any achievements, certifications and publications that you have. Now, if you're conducting research in business or professional services, this can be a great way to get in touch with potential applicants. You'll see there's a messaging tool within LinkedIn which you can use to contact any other member. So this can make it a fantastic way for you to be able to connect with other people with similar interests or those you may wish to speak to for research purposes. Finally, let's look at Kudos. Kudos works with the world's leading publishers to encourage authors to provide their own public-facing friendly version of an article. So here you can see this article that I published in New Library World. It's titled Beyond Books, the Concept of the Academic Library's Learning Space. Now, where somebody wants to read this article, they would have to pay an article access fee or be a member of a university that subscribes to this journal. Now, obviously, while I try to write as accessible as possible, the average member of the public might find my article a little bit dense. It's through this website that I can provide a very simplified version of this and share what this paper was about. It also gives you an option to share perspectives, which can be very interesting if you've co-authored something, so you can each share your perspectives on the article. I hope you found this video overview useful. There's a lot of tools here and we're expecting you will have at least used one of them. So revisit one you may have used before, try something new, or give them all a go. See which you've got time for, and you'll be able to reflect on this further in today's discussion board, and I look forward to seeing how you get on there.